Coming up on Smart Tech today, Matthew Cassinelli and I have quite the news episode for you. Yes, there's loads to talk about, including new products from Apple, some announcements that Apple's made about accessibility with updates coming soon. Amazon has made some changes and some options for vehicle owners to add Alexa to their car, plus Google, because Google I.O. just happened and there was a lot to talk about there, plus our picks of the week. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Command Line Heroes, a podcast that tells the epic true tales of developers, programmers, hackers, geeks, and open source rebels who are revolutionizing the technology landscape. Search for Command Line Heroes anywhere you listen to podcasts and download it today. Hello and welcome to Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and, well, the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am one of your hosts, Micah Sargent.
And I am your other host, Matthew Cassinelli. Hello, Micah. How are you doing today?
Hello, Matthew. I am hanging in there. I've got, right shoulder. I got my left shoulder, but there's the correct shoulder. Got Jigglypuff hanging out on my shoulder, so it's a good day.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. We've got a lot to talk about today. There's a lot of news, so much news, in fact, that this is going to be a news-heavy show. And it kicks off with Apple because Apple will be rolling out a whole sklump of new products tomorrow. I had like 6 different words I was thinking about using, so I made one up instead, like Shakespeare. And so there are a bunch of new products that are going to be out tomorrow. They were announced before, including the Apple TV, Apple's Color iMac, and the iPad Pro. And so folks will be able to check out these new devices. Of course, some of them are, smart internet-connected devices you take with you. Some of them, like the Apple TV, enable more opportunities for Thread in your home, which we talked a little bit about last week. If you didn't check out last week's episode, which, by the way, thank you, Rosemary Orchard, for stepping in for me. I appreciate that. Thank you both for your help there. The week before, we had Jonathan Hui here, who talked about Google and Thread, as he's the VP of technology for the Thread group. So you don't want to miss that episode 77. You don't want to miss last episode 78. And now you're here with us on episode 79. But reviews are out for these new devices, as is the way of things. And reviews seem to be pretty positive for these different devices. Although, interestingly, with the iPad, folks seem to want more from that device. But speaking specifically from a sort of internet-connected, Internet of Things perspective, I think that the iPad is a really cool device for, sort of doing things on the go. And then it also means that maybe I can take one of the old iPads that I have, if I'm getting this new one, and convert it into a panel on my wall that I can use to control my smart home, which that's exciting.
That's perfect. Actually, I linked to Chris Lawley's iPad review in the show notes, and one of his videos, like 2 videos ago, was about using an old iPad on the wall as a smart home device. So that's definitely, I'm getting one to review, and it sounds like you're getting one too. So I want to talk more about that, like, smart display angle next week, especially once I've had more time with it. But it's definitely worth noting that you can get it in stores tomorrow too. Who knows which models they'll actually have, but because it did seem like I've seen stories that there's like all the chip delays are going to hit the iPad specifically too. So it is like, I'm not sure if you're trying to get a very specific model, it might be a couple months wait. So that's definitely interesting. And yeah, the Apple TV having the Thread, I was going to say, I haven't had a chance to talk to you since you were on last week, but just in general, the whole Matter thing on top of all of this. But I've got all those Eve devices now that have Thread, and so I can check out my Thread network and everything. But
yay!
in addition to the Apple TV itself, there's also the Siri Remote, which I think is probably the more interesting part of the story. Like the new Apple TV is like whatever you need for the next generation of visual quality and things like that. But the remote, which you can buy separately, which I did, is going to be just like a big game changer in usability for sure.
Oh, but such a poor choice of words, given that it loses a lot of its game controller functionality.
Awkward. I mean, maybe there'll be more to that story later on. I also don't know if there was that much to that story already anyways, without just recommending that you get those external controllers and everything. I definitely want to see more there, but I do think the chip in it isn't the most powerful thing, so if there is ever going to be some sort of Apple gaming platform, I don't think this is it right now, beyond like a more powerful gaming platform, I guess. Maybe that would be the next Apple TV.
Perhaps.
But even the iMac 2 it's very, because of the colorways, I think it's called, because they're not actually specific colors. It is definitely a home choice that you'd have to consider compared to before, of if you're going to get a big blue iMac and stick it in your room. It does just feel like a very much like this is designed for the home, not the office as much. And it's a very personal computer. So I think that's an interesting addition to, like, they're practically TVs at this point as well with the quality that they have. So definitely, it's always interesting when Apple updates like almost half their lineup, really, when you think about it at once. So I'm excited to get the iPad in my hands, though, because that is a display. If you've ever, I've been rewatching Game of Thrones while I reorganize all of my shortcuts for like the 100th time, and I can tell that I have to watch it at like maximum brightness on my iPad just to be able to really see what's going on. And so that'll be a good test tomorrow once that arrives. Super dark black scenes. It's like notorious for that one major battle where if you didn't have like an HD TV or like a certain type of TV, people were just like, I can't even see what's happening. So
yeah, super dark. So we'll talk more about our experiences with those as we get those products. But let us talk about another really cool thing that happened. Apple, there's a press release that they put out talking about this for yesterday, and there are a bunch of cool new features and updates coming to its different software that are designed for people with different disabilities. And one of those, I think the one of the coolest examples, and we'll have Kevin scroll down just a little bit more to show Assistive Touch for Apple Watch. So before we hit play, Assistive Touch is a feature that folks may have been used to on their iPhones and iPads, and along with folks who have different abilities in terms of hand movement and things like that, who use Assistive Touch to be able to control their devices. I've seen it used a number of times for folks with cracked iPhone screens, where the touch digitizer is broken in some place of some part of the screen, and so they have that little, you'll recognize it as the little sort of gray square with a light gray circle in the middle of it, and you can tap on it and it'll let you go and do different shortcuts to get to the home screen, etc. But bringing Assistive Touch to the watch was a whole different kind of experience, was a whole different kind of problem to solve. And so let's show this video of how Apple is using hand gestures to make this work, including clenching of the hand to stop a timer, for example.
Yeah, this is wild.
Quick actions that let you make different selections. So the person's hand, it shows a call and it says double clench to answer the call. They were able to answer the call that way. And then complex navigation. This is one of the coolest things. The person double clenches and then they use their finger to switch to a different selection. They clench once to choose the motion pointer, which lets you take your wrist and sort of move it about to make this little cursor on the screen move around, and then you can select different things. And the little shake of the wrist also brings up the motion pointer, which lets you make adjustments. Now, this is, I think, just futuristic. The fact that it can detect the difference between a clench and then a finger pinch due to the fact that it's using the different sensors built into the Apple Watch. So it actually uses the optical heart rate sensor. It uses the gyroscope, it uses the accelerometer, and of course, it uses on-device machine learning. All of those together let it tell the difference between muscle movement and tendon activity so that it knows the difference between a clench and a pinch. And then using all of those, you can access different stuff on your Apple Watch. Now, I am so pumped about this because how many people, I know you're out there, and I know you're shamefacedly nodding along with what I'm about to say. How many people out there have used the tip of their nose to select something on their Apple Watch? I know you've done it. Yes. I've done it. We've all done it at least once. And so we won't have to do that anymore. No more nose touching. Oh, there you go. Yeah, get in there.
Changing watch faces with it. Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
The future is letting our noses be because of assistive touch on the Apple Watch. So this is always a celebration for the folks who need it and for the folks who may think they don't need it, who can use these tools just as much as everybody else. These are tools that are created that can be used by everybody, and I just think that's fantastic. As for the iPad, for folks who use eye tracking technology to make selections of things on their screens, these are typically for PCs, Macs, and things like that. That technology will be coming later to iPad, so you'll be able to use eye tracking hardware with the iPad. The VoiceOver a while back added a feature that lets people with low or no vision, be able to see, quote unquote, a photo by being able to use object detection, machine learning, stuff like that to figure out what's in a photo and then explain what is in the photo. So this the update says users can navigate a photo of a receipt like a table, so you can do by row and by column, complete with table headers. And then VoiceOver can also describe a person's position along with other objects within images, so people can relive memories and details. And then with markup, this is really cool. With markup, users can add their own image descriptions to personalized family photos. So that way, I would be able to make sure that all of my photos are accessible for anybody that I was sending them to, which I think is just really neat. And the example that they give is a photo of a person, and it says, slight right profile of a person's face with curly brown hair smiling. So you can actually see that it goes as far as to say, hey, this is a person in the photo. It's a right profile of their face, and it talks about the emotion on their face as well.
Yeah.
What are some features that you were excited about, or other features that you saw that you wanna mention?
I like the background sounds one, which I think is interesting. And they're saying this is in support of neurodiversity, and so you can even do it while media is playing, and there's balanced, bright, dark noise, ocean, rain, or stream sounds. And I was thinking, even very specifically, this is in the show notes too, the day before, Apple did a profile on the folks at Endel, which is the audio soundscape app that we talked about a lot in the past. And they went into depth about like just their cool soundscape experience. And I was like, this sounds like there's an API coming for this, where it would be any app can, or not any app, but some apps like ambient noise apps could tap into this feature in the background also, because that would be really nice. But I'm not totally sure there, but it does seem like this would just be an awesome accessibility feature too if you do need it. And like more Memoji customizations for even things like soft helmets for headwear. And I like that oxygen tubes, because that could definitely make, if you have that kind of accessibility need, just make that you feel represented and not like abnormal or something like that. It's normal. It's part of the feature set and everything too. So that's super cool. They have shortcuts for accessibility in the shortcuts gallery, and they have a whole accessibility assistant too that they created. That's just one shortcut that accesses most of the features there, which is pretty nice. Yeah, there's tons of stuff. What was it? But I mean, I never mentioned, I think that Apple Watch thing is so cool. Like, it is Minority Report style, like pinch, gesture, wrist movements, And like the cursor support just by kind of like twisting your wrist and things like that is really cool. I follow some people who are in the AR space, and the guy was basically like, all you need now is the glasses because you can control everything with the movement of your wrist and your hands with the Apple Watch on it, which I thought was super interesting too. So I feel like this blew my mind. I was just like, what the heck? Like having a cursor on the Apple Watch just seems ridiculous, but the way they implemented it is just like perfectly Apple, where it could be really seamless and be there when you want it and not when you don't. So I can just imagine, I don't know, just like random times when you're just sitting there and you're just kind of like twisting your wrist and trying not to, it's like the only time the Apple Watch will be a one-handed device because you do always have to use the other hand to grab it. And so I feel like that'll be super interesting.
Yeah, that's very neat. Very neat. Looking forward to seeing how that technology gets used and how it grows from here.
One more quick thing. Also, I remembered last year for Accessibility Awareness Day, I just made a set of 14 shortcuts. And so I also just put that link in the show notes to my blog post from last year, where I still use some of them all the time. Like I think actually the word embiggen is now officially in the dictionary too, which I thought I saw that randomly this year, and I was like, oh, I had a shortcut that was called that, that I use to do the like text size, especially if I'm using my iPad on a mount. I like to just make the text sizes slightly bigger so I can see it from further away. So neat little set of shortcuts there too you can get.
Yeah, I love your embiggen shortcut.
Nice.
All right. What's next here?
We've got another cool article, just to the accessibility thread still going, but from Amazon's side, where the ALEXA Trust boss Beatrice Joffrin, I don't know how to say that last name, talked with friend of the show Stephen Aquino about the accessibility at Amazon, and just how I think Stephen makes a good point that the Echo devices at all are just an accessibility feature by default because they're voice capable. And that was definitely my first experience ever buying one of them, was buying it for my cousin who was going blind. And so I definitely think that's worth mentioning a lot with smart home stuff, is accessibility is always almost a reason for any of these products to just be electronic and smart in those ways as well. And it's just good to see. There's a bunch of quotes in the interview, just Amazon talking about the importance of that to their ecosystem and everything they do build that's new too. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, very. Build was quite an interesting event. There was quite a few things announced there that had people kind of going, oh, wow, and stuff that had people going, So yeah, it was a little over the place. Anything else there before we move on to the next topics?
With Amazon or just accessibility?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was.
Sorry, I skipped that.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Let's continue with Amazon here.
Sure. I mean, definitely. I think smart assistance in the car is something that we've been talking about over time too, and this seems like it's going to be a major update where Ford is going to bring ALEXA to 700,000 vehicles this year through, they're called power-ups, I guess, which is just a software update to the car, which I thought was funny branding there. But Broncos, Edge, F-150, Mustang, Mach-E, and Super Duty will all get it. So this is just I think a continuation of, again, it's still usually only in all of these brand new cars, but it's going to be a continuation down the line over the years that these cars are getting direct integration. And it does look like you'll get it free for 3 years, and then afterwards you'd have to get the Ford Pass smartphone app and all that stuff, or the connected car packages and stuff. So at least they're giving it away for free for a while, which is pretty nice. Have you ever used anything like this, or just like connected car stuff?
Only the ones that are the built-in car voice. So never ones that were from a third party that is sort of first party integrated into the vehicle. It was always third party, or I was using CarPlay, which then used Siri as the voice control system. So it's interesting that Ford is going all in with ALEXA on, some of these vehicles. And we'll see how that works out for them. And if folks end up liking having ALEXA in the car in such a big way. Up next, Amazon updated the Echo frames that I still think nobody wants or nobody needs because they're just an overpriced pair of bad headphones. So these Echo frames, now you can get them with sunglass attachments or blue light filtering lenses. So you'll be able to, keep the sun out or keep blue light out if you are working on the computer or something like that. All good ideas, but again, I don't know how many people are actually using these things and how many people have stuck with them. I'd love to know that number because Amazon kind of went, we're going to try this. And then they went, we're going to make this happen. And I didn't see any positive reviews about the Echo frames that suggested that people actually wanted these things. They were meant to be a way for you to wear ALEXA on your head and use it to communicate with ALEXA. There's no little screen or anything like that with information. It's all just kind of almost bone conducting audio, although it's not really. It's these little audio ports on the side that play in your ears, and then you can use it to make a call or ask ALEXA to do something. And it's not even as if the device itself has ALEXA baked in so much because it's got to be connected with your phone in order to work. So they're just silly, and I don't think anyone should spend their money on them. I don't care if Amazon offers gold-plated legs or whatever the thing is that they're called that sticks out of whatever the things are that you put over your ears, that part of it. Even if those were gold-plated and they still charge the same price, I still don't think anybody should get them. I can't in good conscience recommend anybody buying these things. So I guess if you're just so into ALEXA and you want bad sounding audio in your ears all the live long day, then sure, get these and get them in your style of choice with blue light filters or with, does that say, what kind of sunglass lens is it? Is it, are they transition lenses or are they always?
I think it's just
always on.
Yeah, or two types of polarized sunglass lenses for use outside. So I thought at least it does make sense. That's like if you can't wear the glasses outside, it's kind of pointless. I think even as a specialized product, it makes sense that like for Amazon's goal, I think it's like having the assistant anywhere, and they don't have any sort of smartwatch. And so when you're not at home, you don't have it. And so
they do have the Echo or the Halo Band.
Yeah. Is that the one that also criticizes the tone of your voice? Like,
yes.
Well, yes. They're in general just not rolling these.
Amazon is not making great products. But, I should say they're not making great wearable products.
Is the Halo Band actually designed as a...
I don't think so. I think it's just a fitness band.
Okay, because that's what I was going to say. At least it just makes sense. I mean, personally, I think this makes sense with the next story coming up of Amazon developing smart glasses. Whether or not they're good now is like if they add an AR level into the future or something like that could be interesting. I do think at least just with the specialization of like, if you're going to use these outside of your home to access the assistant without having any other way, the sunglasses as a very feature specific way makes sense, or blue light filtering glasses, it's like you're at work always or something like that. I'm curious, maybe this is too much of a digression, but did you see all the stories about how blue light stuff doesn't matter and all that? It's kind of messy, but I think it was like last year or no, they linked to something from last year, but I thought there was something just a couple of weeks ago that was saying like dark or night shift stuff doesn't actually make you sleep any better. It just makes you feel better about it. But
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
see,
boy.
I mean, I was going to say Dr. Micah is like...
I need to
that's like
hear
right down
more
your
about
alley.
this. I'm going to have to look this up because all of the research that I have read about blue light suggests otherwise. And
Maybe it's the opposite, is it's making your screen orange doesn't help.
Okay,
So,
that I could understand. That, like, so even if you're shifting your screen orange, it may not lessen the amount of blue light that you are hitting, that your suprachiasmatic nuclei are taking in. And so in that way, it wouldn't be effective, but something that actually at your eyes filters out blue light would be effective. So that makes sense. I could see the color shift thing on phones not actually doing all that much, particularly because it's not just our phones that have blue light shining at us. It's also lights that we have in our house and everything else. So yeah, I could see that.
I just put it into it's a BYU study just last week or something, and they're saying,
thank you,
whether you have it on, off, or whether or not you didn't use a smartphone before bed at all, it didn't make a difference, which I thought was interesting too. I saw a TikTok that was like making fun of the people who always criticize how much sleep you should get, and it's like, I got 14 hours of sleep and I slept terrible. I got 6 hours of sleep and I slept terrible. And then he's like, well, I got 8 hours of sleep and I also slept terrible. What's going on? Like, I was like, that's pretty relatable.
Nobody can get any sleep. In fact, there's been an uptick in cracked teeth. Dentists have seen a rise in cracked teeth since the start of the pandemic. And they think there are kind of two major causes of that. One is postural. With folks working from home, they're working in different, if they're at work at their desk, their posture would be a little bit better versus at home, sort of slumped over their tables or on, in their beds or on the couch and things like that, which shift the way that your whole body aligns, which then shifts the way that your jaw aligns, which can result in more clenching. And then stress in general, because of the pandemic, as we're all experiencing a low level of trauma. And then lastly would be because of that stress and anxiety, sleep is worse, and the less sleep you get, the more the more your nervous system, the active part of your nervous system, sort of takes over, and that results in jaw clenching. And so people's teeth are getting cracked from the pandemic more so than they were before this, and not getting enough sleep is part of that. So anyway, night shift may not help you, but there's something to keep in mind.
These glasses,
I guess we should all get.
Maybe
we should. Yeah, exactly. These glasses might. Speaking of glasses, Snap has a new pair of spectacles out. So you may remember that Snap has released, I think, 3 pairs of spectacles up to this point? Yeah. 2 or 3. And these devices were for capturing images in your environment in a kind of gimmicky way that you could then publish to your Snapchat story. But Snapchat has now announced the first pair of augmented reality glasses from kind of a big name to hit the market. Well, I shouldn't say that. The first pair of portable augmented reality glasses, because Microsoft's HoloLens kind of gets the main play for that. But this is supposed to be you can go anywhere and do anything. It says it's powered by Snap's spatial engine, which leverages 6 degrees of freedom, hand, marker, and surface tracking. Spectacles realistically bring your creations to life. With 15 millisecond motion to photon latency, lenses are grounded in the physical world. And so it says you can bring Snap's world of augmented reality anywhere for boundless creativity and exploration. You can easily share the experience with your friends right from spectacles. These are not available for anybody. They are only available to AR creators, as Snap calls them, and they are meant to let you see some AR experiences around you. But I don't know. It's still, I mean, they look ridiculous. And
they're like the Cybertruck of smart glasses.
That's perfect.
This is a very hard angle. I mean, I think they went for like, let's just make them work rather than be what last time they were trying to be like a fashion accessory and have regular people buy them. And I think even back then, it really proved that most of the people who use them ended up being specifically creators who spend their time making this kind of stuff. And I've actually followed a ton of Snap creators because they really emphasize the AR stuff. And honestly, it doesn't necessarily have to do anything with Snapchat a lot of the times, as it can easily be Oculus or other platform adjacent things. And Apple's been investing in this field for years. So I figured it was kind of like, I'd just be ahead by following all these people. That's why I saw that tweet about how the accessibility feature could be related to AR in some way. And so I thought that was super interesting. So it'll be interesting to see those people get this kind of thing, because they're the ones that are actually doing super creative stuff. There's lots of filters that just like manipulate what you're seeing in super unique ways. And these people can really go to town with this stuff. And I think Snap also supports them really well. And so this is going to be like a whole thing instead of, I don't know if you've ever yourself tried to make a bunch of Snapchats or TikToks, but it's kind of infuriating to be sitting there on your phone doing like, I was making one where I was like making a little mouth move and trying to get the eyes in the right spot, and just trying to squeeze it on the screen was ridiculous. And so I can see if they're actually doing these AR experiences, just being able to be sort of in it and see it all and work with it sounds a lot more practical than through the phone screen. And so it sounds like very much like a VR type experience, but through AR. So it's wild. I mean, they just announced it this morning too. So they're going big. They have 500 million monthly active users, which isn't daily, but it's definitely younger geared, I'd say, but it's still, people assume it's kind of gone or something like that, but it's like, you're just old probably is what it is. The young people are still using it. So I think it's worth paying attention to, because they're doing really cool stuff there.
It's very fascinating. Although super, I guess, ephemeral like Snapchat is, who is actually getting this, going to get to try it out, check it out. And in that way, does it end up mattering? Because people aren't really going to see it outside of creators.
That's why I like to follow the people and even like the product designers at the company, because when you see that person who made this go work at Apple or something afterwards, it's like, okay, now this stuff is going to translate into maybe larger audiences or non-teenagers.
Right.
But
all right, let's take
they make the world, so.
Yeah, that's true. Let's take a quick break before we come back with more news, so I can tell you about Command Line Heroes, which is bringing you this episode of Smart Tech Today. Command Line Heroes is a really awesome podcast series that shares with you the epic, true tales of developers, programmers, hackers, geeks, and open source rebels who have, and still are, revolutionizing the technology landscape. And by the way, Season 7 is out now. Season 7 of Command Line Heroes explores a pivotal year. The year is 1995. It was the start of the dot-com boom, but a lot of things had to come together for the internet to succeed. Meet the Internet Class of 95. Folks, this is a really interesting look at what truly was kind of the kickoff of the internet that we have today. Long before you could hop on GoDaddy to grab a domain name, there was a woman you'd have to call. Elizabeth Jake Feinler was the keeper of all domains. And episode 1 of the season features a conversation with the woman herself, now in her 90s, about how she managed the internet and how her team needed to create the DNS. 1995 was the year that ISPs became the dominant gateway to the information superhighway. But how do we go from ARPANET all the way to that? Well, it turns out none of it would have happened without a team of intrepid engineers at the University of Michigan and a network they built called the NSFNet. Web design took a while to become a career, but it got a big boost in 1995. When the Batman Forever website launched to promote the movie, it showed people what was possible on the web. This episode features pioneers like Jeffrey Zeldman, the godfather of web design, who recount the shift that forever changed the face of the web. Isn't this just super cool? 1995 was a pivot point the moment when the internet went from academic curiosity to global phenomenon. Command Line Heroes is hosted by developer and podcaster Saranyat Barak. And of course, we here at Twit got to have a sneak preview of season 7, but many of those episodes you can check out. And it gives you some really interesting stories about how the internet was really made after the internet was created, sort of what made it into this popular thing that we have today. And Command Line Heroes always does a good job with their series of creating these beautiful graphics, this whole theme that goes along with each episode. It's just incredible. Sometimes I just like to go there and look at the art that they do because it just adds so much to the story. It's really well done. So you should definitely check out all of the incredible stories from season 7 today. All you have to do is search for Command Line Heroes anywhere you listen to podcasts. That's Command Line Heroes. Download it today. And of course, our thanks to Command Line Heroes for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. Alrighty, Google I/O just took place, and one of the announcements at Google I/O was the next version of Android 12, and with it came the introduction of something called Material U, which is a rethink of the material design ethos that lets people kind of make their mark a little bit more on their phones. The idea is that you play a role in the design of your device because by picking a wallpaper, Material will pull from that some colors and create a color palette that goes along with that. And so by doing that, you will also be able to have that have that design sort of sync across all the different devices that you have that are logged in with your account. So in one move on your phone, then your Nest Hub Max and your Nest thermostat and all the different things that you have that are Google connected will also feature your Material U theme, which is really neat. You're sort of painting your whole ecosystem with the color that you choose and the feel that you choose. What did you think about Material U, Matthew?
I think that's so awesome. I think that's the perfect way to use that personalization, especially of shared devices, and make it just customized to you. Like it says it on the tin. But I think especially like the Nest Hub Max and those kind of displays, especially if I'm curious how much it would know it's you based off of just like looking at you or something versus it's different once you interact with it. So I'm very curious about that, but I can just see it's like when I go up to the thing, it shows my green one versus my girlfriend who likes blue or something like that. And so it is just customized to you as you use it and a very shared device ecosystem sort of way. I love that it uses the wallpaper too. Like I've tried to do similar things in the past where you identify the primary colors and stuff like that using APIs and then like do some sort of fancy wrapper around that. But that is definitely, I don't know. I like that it's integrated into the system in that way. And so like it'll be across many of the apps that you can use in those designs as well too. So I think this is super cool. Like I absolutely want this as an Apple user. So I think they should just steal it. I almost imagined it was something that was like coming. That's one thing that I will always say, that I tend to watch these being like, it's always, you can never actually look into the strategy, but I'm like, is this something that Apple is doing and now Google's also doing it like 2 weeks before Apple does it? Is always an interesting thing because there was so much customization last year that I have to assume there's going to be even more this year. So I could see actually Apple doing something like this, and then it looks like they copied Google, even though they probably did it a while ago or something. But that's at least, especially across that ecosystem stuff, is the coolest part. Like I want that on my Nest Hub for sure.
Yeah, that's I think very neat. I think it's a super cool idea to have that across all the devices. The one thing that I brought up with Jason Howell earlier, we talked a little bit about this on Tech News Weekly, was all of these companies, Apple, Google, and Amazon, have very individual-minded takes on these systems where a lot of times people are not on their own. And so if you think about if you think about a house where one person gets to be the one that paints the color across everything in their house, and how do you reconcile with like a family where everybody kind of has their own Material You theme? Do some people get to choose what the Nest Hub looks like? Does it change depending on the day? Is Monday my day and Tuesday is my partner's day? It's kind of a bummer, some of these features that, especially with smart home stuff, where it feels so focused on one person, and it's how you interact with these different things and your automations alone. And that part feels like they could do a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. That makes me think of, I have one thing that I did do that was clever with the Apple TV actions for shortcuts is that you can actually switch your users. And so I had shortcuts that were like Matthew mode, and it's like I always want it in dark mode with captions on and stuff like that. Like, I think those kind of automatic setups based on your preferences, I hope we see a lot more of that this year. And like you said, it's like these are all devised for individuals, but people have been sharing products a lot more in the last year too. So I think that's more important. I like this update to Google Photos too. And similarly, I mostly think of Google Photos as the way to get my photos onto the Nest Hub especially. And so just improving those algorithms for the type of memories, letting you be able to remove memories that you don't want anymore, I think is something that can be really brutal, especially on Apple's version when it's like on your widget thing and it's like, oh, I mean, I don't know, there's been lots of loss in the last year and things like that. And so having your phone show you something like that is like, please don't. Did you see the cinematic photos thing, though? I think this is an interesting one.
Yeah, I've already created one.
Okay.
It's a very cool feature. Yeah.
It's very fast. I've seen this, I don't know, maybe it was because it was one of those things where a hot take on Twitter instantly influences you, but it takes two photos and like analyzes the moments that would have been in between and then creates frames and synthesizes movement into that image. So it's kind of like live photos, but it's AI generated. And so it's ultimately like not real.
Yes,
so it's very interesting.
I agree that I think that you're right. Your thought about it being reading the tweet, the hot take, because the fact is you don't actually know what you look like because you are seeing you through your own eyes. And when I look at you, I see a different person than you actually. No one actually knows what they look like, even whenever it's taken with a photo. Everybody sees everybody differently because all of our eyes are shaped a little bit differently. The environment, all of these things play a role. So like nothing is real. And when you take a photo in the first place, that is not an actual representation of how a person looks either. It's digital. So from the get-go, the photos are fake. So to be all weird about creating some frames in between, I think is silly because that puts forth the idea that the photo in the first place is a real thing. No, it's all just representations, and it's none of it's real.
Sorry, I'm just laughing because we got so existentialist. Nothing's real. It's like, oh, okay.
That's where it always goes in the end. It's like,
I know what you mean.
I mean, yeah.
I think just the simulated movement, like, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things where something could be happening in between that they made happen that wasn't actually there. It does say it's supposed to be like nearly identical images, so it's probably going to work on it. It seems like those. Did you see that AI generator thing that went around last year where it's like they take the photo of Abraham Lincoln and it makes it look like he's looking around just barely because they can like do that exact same thing. So I think it's cool. I think it is just like, I don't know. I can't tell if it'll get into the uncanny valley thing because it's different when live photo is like converting the video that was actually there. But I don't know. Maybe it's just a weird Puritan thing about it. I don't know.
Yeah, perhaps. All right, let's talk about some of the other stuff that Google announced. Where am I? Oh, there it is. So Google is, as they say, supercharging Lens, or is supercharging shopping through the use of its Lens and artificial intelligence technology, so that you can, even more than you were supposed to be able to before, take a photo of something and be able to find the product that you were looking for. This is supposed to be kind of next level. If you take a photo or screenshot of a product, Google Photos will suggest that you search for it using Lens, which lets you identify and shop for it right from the screenshot that you're taking. So you can, oh, that's a cool bag, and then you can get it for probably thousands of dollars, like the shoes in that photo. I'm sure were probably very expensive.
Yeah, I thought this was just a fascinating tie into Google's entire ecosystem. I was like, this is something that Google could uniquely do, even going back to the YouTube videos. And I did it, like, I don't know, maybe this was a stretch, but I was just like, I wonder if this would affect how people are buying their smart home products, because of the way it does just seem like a smoother experience. Or like you take a photo of your friend's smart home thing at their house, and then you can search in the screenshot for the thing and buy it. So I don't know, maybe too much of a stretch for that one, but still interesting news. I think it's still sometimes that stuff is so futuristic that and when you just have it, you're like, oh, okay, whatever. But like the fact that you can just take a photo and Google search for things and buy it right away is like, that's amazing on its own. The next story also, of course, I have to take this one because it is Google Assistant continuing to emphasize shortcuts as a feature. So I think this is just it's like shortcuts as a generic, where you can set up custom app actions with a custom phrase for your Google Assistant and speak it to the assistant and have that stuff happen, or jump into specific parts of the apps. So basically, this is just a continuation of that API that they've announced in the past and making that more prominent and sticking it in front of people. And then they're also talking about like how it could enable widgets, lock screen stuff, and even Android Auto in the future too. So I think this is great because, also apps can put in their own assistant shortcuts gallery and stuff like that. So I think this is just great for the shortcuts as an ecosystem overall, of people understanding what the heck these even are. Like, that's something that can just sort of be odd at first. It's like skills, but more set up by the developers, and then the user activates it for themselves, as opposed to sort of a abstract thing that you tap into through the developer itself directly. But yeah, this is just cool to see. I love it. It makes my job easier. I don't have to hopefully just communicate what a shortcut even is from an app. People will just slowly start to understand that.
Yep. Sorry, what's next?
We've got a couple of travel-related ones. So this isn't specifically Google I/O, but just wanted to mention it since we talked about iPhones getting public transit in the Bay Area. Android phones also did that, which is super interesting. So just a lot, I think, public transit type communication through transit cards and things like that is a lot more advanced than it used to be in the past. And you can get it regardless of platform now in major cities, which is super nice. And then even in a similar way, Android 12 will have let pixels be car keys. And this is another one of those things that's like, there's one car out there that does that right now, but maybe in 5 years we'll all be unlocking our phones with the same ultra-wideband technology that AirTags and HomePod Mini and iPhone do have, which is super cool. So just going off of, I put that AirTags video a couple weeks ago that was just about how ultra-wideband is a very interesting local awareness technology that can enable these kinds of things, which is cool. Like your car, not only could you unlock it, your car could know that you're driving automatically because you're like in the car. It knows that sort of thing. And then just further with the travel stuff, Google Maps has more detailed maps, crowd indicators, some like eco-friendly routing or easier bike routes is a part of it. The crowd indicator thing is actually really good for post-pandemic or mid-pandemic stuff. It was just knowing that nobody's there is different than knowing if it's super busy is super helpful and has always been something that Google did, but just even areas of town is what they're doing now. So it's like maybe that one store is fine or something, but I don't know, there's an event going on that day, and so it's crazy busy and you wouldn't want to be there. So I think that's actually a really intelligent feature beyond just the store. It's like neighborhood, or I don't know if it's city level, but maybe LA. It's just like you're screwed.
Yeah, for sure. And so Google has, yeah, there is. And Google announced Wear OS, announced an update to Wear OS that kind of renaming it Wear and sort of dropping the OS in some ways, but announced that along with having Wear, Samsung's own system will be able to make use of Google Play apps and things like that. So it's sort of a merging together of what Samsung has on offer with Tizen and what Google has on offer, so that you can, as a developer, create apps that work for both platforms and both devices. So this is just a better thing all around, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And just with their owning Fitbit now too, they're kind of pulling in all of those features and giving stuff back to Fitbit too. But it does seem like this is just like any sort of strategy for Wear OS is now clear, as opposed to before. It was kind of like, I have no idea where this is going. And there's just kind of, it's like chugging along, but nothing's really happening. So it seems like this is a consolidation because they're not just actively competing with Samsung and that also Fitbit at the same time. And it's kind of going to be, if you want a Samsung type device or a Google type device plus Wear OS plus Fitbit, you'll have all of those options, but you're not, it's kind of, I don't know, it's impossible not to just think about it as other from Apple Watch too, but I think that is mostly Google's strategy. Is for most consumers, it's kind of like, especially if you're just not at all considering Apple Watch, you're fighting within like a smaller ecosystem there. And so I think now this is like, oh, I can see that Wear OS is going to be a thing that continues into the future with all of this sort of, it's not all combined, but they're all sort of lined up and going in the same direction too. So I think this is great news, because we really do need competition with in the wearable space, not just amongst, not like infighting necessarily, but just making those products best for the user too. Because I think that's the biggest thing, is it was like companies like Fitbit just trying to survive as a company versus providing the best possible experience across platforms for users. So I think this is going to be really good and will actually make the wearable field grow a lot more than I think Android has been struggling to find its footing. So what, Android Wear, is that what they're just going to call it now?
I think they're just calling it Wear. Just Wear.
Oh, interesting. Oh yeah, Android Wear is now Wear OS by Google.
Oh, they do still say Wear OS? I thought it was just Wear.
At least this Twitter account does. So
got it.
That makes sense. It's not as tied to Android.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's definitely one of the major things, because it's just a future for wearables in that realm that makes, especially as a consumer, I think would make me a lot more confident in investing in it versus kind of not being sure if one of those is going to go under before that consolidation happens. And then we could talk to just real quick about two more Google high-level Google things, but I think are just super interesting features in terms of using technology to collaborate. And we've always talked about Google Meet, and I think it does play into that smart display strategy. But it seems like every single camera now, every single display system is going to have the smart zooming and just like panning in on you too. But Google Meet will also do live captions. So I think that's going to be super nice. And then the whole workspace, I don't even know. I mean, did they mention that how it's very confusing, where Google Apps in general, now there's going to be a whole workspace where you can work on Google Docs and Sheets and Slides collaboratively with people while you're using video chat, and be able to work seamlessly across Google's services while working on them at the same time. It's kind of confusing, but this does seem like Google kind of trying to be what they've always been, of the collaborative tool of the future, but now actually built for 2021 and not just the same Google Docs we've had for like 10 years. So I think this is super cool, and I'm very fascinated to see how this kind of stuff will all work on tablets, because that's kind of my big thing this year, is just, I think iPad really didn't serve a lot of these needs. And in 2020 and other tablet devices, but with that zooming functionality and actual collaboration in these kind of browser-based tools, it'll be very fascinating to see if that kind of thing can survive beyond, or like take it to the next level as well, because this is all stuff that we should have as like the future of work sort of thing. And if it just doesn't work on tablets, that just totally destroys that product category. So you're either left out or you have to use a traditional computer. So I think seeing that stuff come to like all across, it's like, I don't know, I guess you're not going to collaborate on your Nest Hub Max, but maybe you could use the video chat part at least. What do you think? Do you think you're going to use these Google Docs features?
I think the Google Docs features are super cool, and I would like to use them. But all I want is for Google to bring chat back to Google accounts that are part of like business. So like the Twit accounts, we can no longer use chat within a Google Doc. Right now, you and I cannot communicate in Google Chat within the Google Doc. So I don't care about anything else. I just want that back. But in all seriousness, I think that some of those features are very cool, and I would like to see them come back for sure. Or I mean, I'd like to see them not come back. Those ones already exist. I'd like to see these new features and play around with them for sure. Pageless Docs and the idea that you can kind of drop anything into it, because I find myself sometimes in Sheets. There are times where I want to do multiple things with Sheets and have sort of two different boxes of sheets instead of one big spreadsheet. And this ability to kind of have a canvas to work with, I think, is very cool, and I'm looking forward to that.
Totally. I would use that while we're doing the show live, so could try it. Nice. I think that's...
that takes care of that. So let us move on to talk about some more Google news in just a moment. All right. So a couple of things that are interesting. One that I was pumped about and now I'm disappointed about. And another one that feels very lip servicey given the fact that the other one happened. I know I'm being very unclear here, but here's what we'll start with. We're going to start with the dermatology tool, and then we'll go into the one about the camera. So at Google I/O announced a really cool, at the time I thought, dermatology tool that, okay, let me back up for a second. I'm all about democratizing health. That it's, how like people complain these days. Back in my day, I could open up my car and fix any little piece of it, and I could adjust the carburetor and replace the hose tube, and all I needed was a wrench and a couple of squeegees. But these days, everything's all computerized, and I've got to take it in and spend $1,200 on everything. That's how I feel about the human body. That has not changed for the most part, despite the fact that my being is inside of this body. I don't know everything there is to know about it. And you have to go into a specialist to get that fixed. And here in the United States, with health services costing as much as they do, and for folks who don't have health insurance, not even being able to go to the doctor in many cases, it's kind of horrific how little we know about our bodies and how little access we have to good information about our bodies. And so I was kind of pumped about this tool where you could take a photo. How appropriate this is right now as I'm in a low level amount of pain. You could take a photo of something going wrong with your skin, and then you could upload that, and AI would be able to process that and try to give you some information about it, which would get you somewhere. And take it from somebody who has had to do some advocating for myself within the last 48 hours of like quoting dermatology journals, the American Journal of Dermatology and all these different things with my doctor, who I don't blame the doctor does not have a lot of time in a day. The doctor has 1,000 different people to see in one day. And so it's hard to have time to do all of that research. And so you do have to kind of be an advocate for yourself. So I'm quoting stuff from different journals of dermatopathology or is it dermatopathology and all these different things. And so if there was a tool that could help me get to that, those journals quicker and be able to share that information with my doctor so we could work together on it, I think is great. So I was pumped about this tool that Google had announced that was going to let you do this. However, Vice published an article today about this tool, and this tool is based on a May 2020 study that Google researchers published in the Journal of Nature Medicine, where they showed the efficacy of using deep learning to recognize skin conditions. But in this study, of the 64,837 image data set, only 3.5% of those patients had skin that was brown or dark brown or black, meaning that the rest of them, so the other percentage, the vast majority of the percentage of folks were white folks or lighter skinned folks. And so that means that, and as I said earlier on Tech News Weekly, when we look at the chart that shows the distribution of folks with health insurance and who live in better financial situations, and we look at the distribution and see how there's an imbalance for people of color, then this is all the more reason why I'm really bummed out about this, because folks who could really use access to these kinds of tools may get the wrong information entirely, or it just may not work for them. It may not be useful to them. And so, and then there's also just the commentary that folks have had that once again, Google is showing its A word about not knowing, not being aware of and giving two hoots about their diversity and being mindful of their diversity.
I mean, especially the article goes into this is one of the articles where I just saw it and I just went, oh no, out loud, because I was like, oh, why did you do this? Where it's literally, Google categorizes it by ethnicity, but the author or people who studied it said that it doesn't go by Fitzpatrick skin types, and brown was underrepresented and dark brown or black was completely absent. And so it's not at all going to be relevant, basically, because it isn't using the same type of data to inform those decisions, which is exactly how machine learning is trained. And I think it is important to note that even recently, Google has come under fire for firing one of their AI ethicists, Timnit Gebru. I don't think I've ever actually said her name out loud, so I just realized I never tried to pronounce that. But they've taken a major hit to their reputation in the research and AI department, and then now they're doing more like this that specifically doesn't address the needs of Black people. And so I think this is a major failure for Google. I think, like you said, it specifically could help these types of communities even more, and was not even trained to help those types of people at all. And so, what are you doing, Google? This is just a major mistake, and I don't think they should have put this kind of thing out. I do think like you said, it can help identify for, they should just have some sort of warning in it or something like that. I don't know. It's hard to that's saying that this doesn't work because your skin is too dark is also not a great error message to put into your app. So maybe just don't do it until you actually base it so it works for everybody and isn't just entirely skewed in one direction.
That might be good. It's frustrating.
I think it's also particularly odd because of the next headline, which is about how Pixel phones are now specifically designed to take better pictures of people who have darker skin tones, because historically this was a really major issue where Kodak, when they first developed a lot of their color calibration processing stuff, they used a photo of a white woman. And so everything was based off of exposing for white skin. And then if you took pictures with those kind of cameras and you had black skin, just wouldn't even show up at all, or way too dark and poorly lit for what could otherwise be very well lit if you knew what you were doing. Like there was a major thing with Annie Leibovitz photographing Simone Biles, and people were like, these are the worst photos I've ever seen, and you're a professional photographer. And it's like, because she only takes pictures of white people most of the time. So this is going to be built into Pixel cameras, which is really cool. I hope it comes outside of Pixel cameras also, because that seems weird to limit it to a hardware type of thing. But that seems to, at least Google's best stuff does seem to be tied to what they can do directly on Pixel hardware. So I understand that. That's how Apple does it. But it is just sort of odd when it's like you have to buy our specific, more expensive phone in order to get this, is sort of an odd thing when it comes to racial features like that or something like that, which is not usually a territory that they step into. But I think that's, I mean, feel free to jump in, but it is just like in contrast to that, to have what seemed like a very good announcement, and then it's like, oh, by the way, our other thing, we didn't even think about this, is it's like, come on, like Google is a large company, but maybe you need people overall monitoring the ethics of artificial intelligence in these types of programs, and they don't work there anymore. So that's all I have to say about that, I guess.
Yeah, I apologize for being
no worries.
Slightly distracted.
I don't think it. I think that's why it's also just the worst, is that we have to have conversations like this where they should just be doing better on their own. So,
agreed. It's just such a bad look. That's what's so disappointing. And again, as I was really pumped about democratization there, it's like, but you're not doing that. You're not doing that at all. Okay, let's talk about some of the other stuff. As we have said, RIP to P-Choip and hello to Matter. Google has announced that, of course, I mean, this made total sense given that Thread is a major player in the future, the Matter future. Its Nest devices are going to work with the new Matter smart home standard.
Yeah, this is cool. So I think the thing that I just haven't thought about a whole lot is the fact that generally this could mean that Nest devices could work with HomeKit and stuff like that, where
yes,
if they all do go through that interoperable protocol, yes, there won't be as much distinction. And so I think that's going to be something that's low-key hard to, I mean, it's like embedded in people's minds that you have to pick an ecosystem. And now it'll all just kind of be ecosystems that you just prefer, not that you're like completely locked into, which I think that's exactly why this is going to be great, is it's just going to make it's like, I just like Nests and I don't have to like buy everything just Google just because I want to use the Nest. So it'll be fascinating. I mean, how that works practically, like Nest Hub Max integrating onto your iPhone. I mean, I guess it still already kind of does that way, but this will just be fascinating. And to give Google credit, they laid the groundwork for this with Thread a long time ago, and so that's why it's just like, oh yeah, good to go. This is all that matters. I'm so sorry. I just cringed the second I said that. So
yeah, that didn't take very long. I love this. So for the longest time, Ecobee, one of the things that they did with their smart thermostat was include a little device called a power extension kit, which lets you use other wires in your thermostat, in your furnace, to give power to the thermostat. So in homes without a C wire, so a C wire is there to provide power to a powered thermostat. So if you don't put batteries in the back of your thermostat, then the way that it's probably being powered is via a C wire. That's its purpose. It's called the common wire. You plug it into the back of the thermostat. It gives that device power. Some homes don't have a C wire. And so for folks who are wanting to install a thermostat, they either needed to hire an electrician to run a C wire, or with Ecobee, you could basically rewire things to send power over a different set of wires to give power to the thermostat. But Nest did not have that kind of technology available. So now they're selling the Nest Power Connector, which lets you make a C-wire out of your system. So that way, if your thermostat does not work, but does not connect, then you can use the Nest Power Connector. It's $24.99, and then lets you basically install, make a fake C-wire with the system. And so apparently they claim that third-party C-wire adapters can damage the Nest thermostat, so they really would like you to buy theirs, their first-party one, but it'll let you better connect. And I used to use the power extension kit for my Ecobee in my old home. In this home, however, someone pointed out that, hey, if you've got the extra wires in the wall, then yes, exactly as Burke says in our personal chat, it's a simulated C-wire. If you've got the extra wires, because there were 2 extra ones that weren't being used, and they were at the thermostat and they were also at the furnace control panel, then why not connect one to the C-wire, the C terminal, and then plug it into the thermostat? I thought, why didn't I do that? So for a long time, because it's just annoying to get up there and do that, I left it with the power extension kit. But then at some point I did undo it and just ran it via the C-wire. It works perfectly. So no power extension kit in my home right now. And it's just over the C-wire. But yes, this is great. It's good that Google has a first-party one. Frankly, they should include it in the box as the Ecobee does, I think, because not everybody has a C-wire, and some people don't know that they need one and how that all works.
That's what I was going to say. This is like the most specific product where you don't know that you need it until you are like deep into research and be like, oh, this is specifically why like my home setup wouldn't work with this yet. But like you said, from the first party, I think is important. And just that, I don't know if it's backwards compatibility isn't the right term, but just making that more accessible, even if you don't, like, it could cost you hundreds of dollars to hire an electrician and do all that. So if you can get it with just this, that would be a lot better.
Agreed.
That's a pure IoT thing right there.
Well, I see Google Cast has gotten an update so that you can more easily move the audio between devices, which is always a good thing because sometimes that stuff gets a little bit laggy or annoying because it doesn't work how you expect it to.
Yeah, so this is interesting. It's a little, I was trying to make sure I understood it right, but so there's Cast Connect, Stream Transfer, and Stream Expansion tools. And so Cast Connect sounds like Cast Connect, not Cast Connect. That would be my personal podcast. It lets you send, like, if you're airplaying from YouTube, it will open the YouTube TV app and play it there for you, as opposed to just like opening a video on top of whatever you're doing. So it's like targeting to specific apps in that experience, which I think is interesting. Stream Transfer will let you move between supported devices. So I'm curious if this would mean that you could actually be watching on a Nest Hub and say, like, play it on the TV, and it would just start from where you are in a different place, because I feel like that's like the ultimate smart home transfer thing that I still want. And then Stream Expansion is you can even use like your other Nest speakers in the room as the audio for that stream. And so if you want more, or maybe you have you're hard of hearing or something and it's over there and you want the one next to you to help too, you could do that too. So I think that's super fascinating. I think the like ambient audio computing experience thing is going to be something that gets a lot better this year, of like, you just move between rooms and the TV and the sound comes with you. And these are some of those technical ways. And even like, I think that part about opening into an app on the smart TV makes a lot of sense. We talked about in the past YouTube as an experience. And I think that's always something that's really hard, is to like open a YouTube video on the TV, is you have to either people just cast it or they go search for it. And so this is kind of the blend of both. And then you can just be on YouTube on the TV once you're done. So it's like handoff type thing, but for Chromecast. So pretty neat. Do you think you'll use any of these?
No, I don't really use Google's Cast stuff. So
yeah, I feel like YouTube is the main one that I would pass things around. But yeah, it's good if you use YouTube Music and stuff like that too. And just as another,
let's quickly talk about Project Starline.
I was just going to say that the other part is that there's 80 million devices on Android and Google TV. So there is actually a decently large ecosystem there. But yeah, let's do the Starline thing. That's wild. I saw something that was like, this is only going to ever work in Google Offices, but they have these super high resolution cameras in the whole seated setup where it will basically scan and create a depth map of you and transmit it over the web to somebody else who's sitting in a similar type environment. And when you're looking at the screen in front of you, it will basically have a 3D depth to it like they're there. And it seems like a very, very technical thing. But especially it's like, if you go Google moonshots plus pandemic is like, what if we could actually be in the same room together? And so
right.
This is like a whole really fancy thing, but it looked impressive. Like it looked like you're sitting across the table from somebody and that you could almost reach out and touch them. And there's, of course, the whole technology angle behind it of how they process what is gigabytes of data at once into smaller pieces of information they can send over the internet and retransmit back. So it like does the 3D imaging for you and then compresses it. I don't know if when you were watching it, I just thought of Silicon Valley where they were talking about, advances in compression, which I thought was very silly just because that show is very inappropriate and absurd. Just imagine those guys working on this kind of thing, but it looks really cool. Like this is
very neat.
So futuristic. And I'm going to see my family in 2 weeks, and I haven't seen my nephew since before he spoke. And so if I could have been able to like hang out with him in almost like we're together, even just for like his sake, I'm a little worried that like he won't, for whatever reason, recognize me. But just because,
that's always
like he knows who I am over FaceTime and stuff, just in person is going to be different. And so if you can use technology to remove that from what is clearly not enough of just video chatting with people, I think that's really cool. But who knows, you might have to have $100 million studio or something like that to get it.
Right.
So this is very much one of those project titles for sure, for a reason.
All right, folks, that brings us to the end of a lot of news today, which leaves us with our picks of the week up next. It's time for our picks of the week. All right, Matthew Cassinelli, tell us about your pick of the week, a very cool one that I am definitely eyeballing for my own home.
This just came out this morning, and I feel like it just kind of snuck out there, where Belkin has an audio adapter that will add AirPlay to any speaker. And so it has an analog audio out and optical audio out, and it basically makes any dumb speaker into maybe not a smart speaker, but a smart speaker destination with AirPlay. And so this is a $99 product. It's on pre-order right now, so I totally want to get these and test them out. But this, it's in the Home app, so you can do scenes and automations. So I could even have shortcuts cast to like my dad's old set of optical speakers that he has in the house and AirPlay to that. That is so cool. Like, I'm super excited for this. I'm always surprised we didn't see this until now. I wonder if there's something technical about it that is now capable that wasn't before, but this is fascinating.
I think this is very...
I don't know, there's not much else to say.
AirPlay 2 is really the big thing here. It does help. It does help make a difference. It's a whole new way of like connecting multiple devices together and having the music stream everywhere. And that's a big step over AirPlay, the original. And I also think that Belkin was kind of waiting for Apple's old airport Expresses to kind of fall out of the marketplace, because those used to be what people used to do AirPlay to their devices because it had an audio out on the back. And with those gone now, truly gone, this is kind of a one-purpose solution that is specifically for this. And I think it's a great idea. So I hope that Belkin executed it well. I think this would be a great way to, especially with like a receiver that doesn't have AirPlay built in or something, or just powered speakers that you have to be able to AirPlay to them instead of Bluetooth or another technology. It's really neat. So good on them for creating this.
Totally. Could even, I was going to say like Bluetooth speaker. I guess I don't know why you do that, but just to have the control. And even we didn't mention it yet because it's like weirdly half announced, but there's Apple Music spatial audio and lossless stuff that's coming, which some of what all that means is up for debate. But this does say that this has CD quality sample rates, so 44.1 kilohertz. I still don't know what I'm saying here, but same. It does sound like this would be a good solution for that kind of stuff also. So at least to the highest
quality.
Can't
do it with Bluetooth. So doing it with the Wi-Fi. And the other thing is the syncing. I can have my Mac play to a HomePod Mini, the Belkin Soundform Connect audio, and the HomePod all at once, and it all is synced across all 3 or 4 of the devices, depending on if I also have my computer selected as one of the outputs. So that
no delay makes a big difference, because that was really the airport things. I had that for a while with my Sonos, but one room was like a split second off, and so it was unacceptable. No way.
That just completely ruins it.
This is $99 also, just so you know. What is your pick?
My pick of the week is a really interesting thing. It's called. It's not called. It's called the Wise Floor Lamp, and it is a task lamp that has smart dimming functionality. But what's really neat about it, look, I'm a Cyclops, is not the the device itself so much as the controller that you use with it. So you press the button to turn it on, and then it's notched, so you can turn it down using that controller. And I think it has 18 adjustments.
Put the clicks into the mic. I want to hear that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Nice, good sound. Good sound.
Yeah, then you can click it up to full brightness like that, and then I'll bring it back down again. And you'll notice that the LEDs that are lit up are actually, not yet, but you'll be able to tell shortly, change as you get darker. So it starts with kind of the ones in the outer ring all lit up. See there, it changed. Oh, that actually went completely off. That's not what I meant to do. But because of, if we can show the page, it talks about the angle of the light and the way that these little circles are all placed. It's created with a more, there we go, 15 individual condenser lenses provide an even lighting experience. So instead of having one lens or even no lens, depending, this sort of makes these focused beams of light that focus the light at a 23-degree angle. So that way you can confine the light to a specific space and you don't end up having the light kind of shining all over. This is a true task light that adds. And then they made this, like, what is it, 5'7" or something? They say it on the page. It's like a 5'7" lamp that has a huge adjustable arm. So much of the arm is adjustable so that you can focus the light exactly where you want it. It's like Pixar lamp's older brother, who just went through puberty, so they're like gangly. And you can, focus the light exactly how you want it on the task that you're working on. And then they have a pretty good CR, is it CR or CRI rating for the LED itself. So it's pretty color accurate lighting. It's $45 on Wise's website. It is a really neat thing. Yeah. And I don't know, there's something about the remote. I just think this is such a cool little remote that you can put on a table or stick somewhere if you want to, and then use it to control the device.
Did you get this on the pre-order or something?
This was a review unit that I was sent.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, right now they're in the midst of like Kickstarter-ish pre-order stuff, so it's not available yet. But It is a really cool product that I imagine would be available soon. 23-degree light, Bluetooth remote, 11 levels of brightness.
I wonder how well this would work for videos, like just specifically to highlight the center of my desk. It might be too directional, but
they actually show it being used as like a that's bright, a selfie ring light. So I wouldn't probably have it on that, but you could bounce it off of a wall or something to be able to the color accuracy and the spread, like you said, could make a difference there that otherwise would just like it falls off your face weird. So I'm interested though. That's totally cool. And just like $45 for a light with that much features. Like I feel like everything that Wyze does, you're like, this should cost more. I mean, obviously that's kind of their game, is it's somehow just like ridiculously cheap and they add a lot into it. Oh, my cat's trying to come in. Hello. Ridiculously inexpensive. I don't like to use the word cheap. Because it's very nice quality. And also you don't, hello kitty. You don't have to use the remote. You can also, there's a switch at the base of it that you can use to turn it on and off. So Wyze.com, and just scroll down until you find the Wyze floor lamp, or we'll include a link in the show notes. Again, it's out of stock right now, but whenever it's back in stock, then you should be able to check it out. And I forgot, it works with the Wyze app too. So if you don't have the controller nearby, you can use the Wyze app to turn it on and off, and set a schedule if you'd like as well.
Could you maybe like homebridge that?
Wyze does not have. No one's making Wyze plugins for all of Wyze's stuff. I think they make stuff far too quick for people to come out with the plugins for it. And plus, it's Bluetooth, so you would have to have a Bluetooth radio that you could address and say, hey, turn these on and off. That's the Wyze floor lamp. $45 on Wyze's website. Folks, that brings us to the end of another episode of Smart Tech Today. If you have questions, we'd love to answer your questions and work on projects for you. You send those to stt@twitch.tv, or email us, or tweet at us, or post it in the Smart Tech Today room. That also works. Tune in live by checking out the show every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific by going to twit.tv/live. But the best way to get the show is by subscribing to the show. And you do that by going to twit.tv/STT and clicking on your podcast application of choice, subscribing in audio or video across Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, YouTube, etc., etc. And now's a good time to mention that you should check out a little thing we call Club Twit. Club Twit is the membership program we have available for $7 a month that lets you become a subscriber to the Twit network, giving you access to ad-free content, all of the Twitch shows ad-free, access to the Twit Plus bonus feed, which has some before show and after show stuff, and some more content that we're thinking about rolling out. I've got a few ideas in the works. And what's quickly becoming the most important and most interesting part of the Club Twit package, it's access to the members-only Discord server, where you can hang out with all of us and share your thoughts during the show, after the show, in between the show, over the show, under the show, etc. You can hang out with us there, Club Twit, by going to twit.tv/clubtwit, right, Kevin?
Yes, twit.tv/clubtwit.
Perfect. Wanted to confirm that URL. Twit.tv/clubtwit, $7 a month, and you get all that stuff. And plus, you're supporting us directly. And the first bit of awesomeness to come out of the Club Twit subscriptions is that tomorrow, Leo Laporte is hosting a very special episode of Triangulation where he will be interviewing the author of The Martian. And that is thanks to the support of Club Twit. So you'll be able to check that out in the Twit events feed. Let me make sure that's the right one. It's, the Twit events feed. As well as the Triangulation feed. So either of those places, if you're still subscribed to Triangulation, you'll get it there, or the Twit events feed. So thank you to those of you who have supported us thus far. And if you want to join the club, join the party, join the fun, twit.tv/clubtwit. All right, Matthew Cassinelli, if folks want to follow you online and check out all your great stuff, where do they go to do that?
They can go to matthewcassinelli.com/newsletter because I have a weekly shortcuts newsletter, and I've been sharing all types of tips like how to request that Spotify actually adds shortcut support. And also I made one that scans your Post-it notes up on the wall and copies the text out and lets you paste it elsewhere and stuff like that. So that's actually super cool.
Nice.
What about you?
You can find me online pretty much always at Micah Sargent. That's the one I tend to pick as my username. Or you can head to chihuahua.coffee, chihuahua.coffee, where I've got links to the different places I am online. But that is going to do it for us today. And we will say good afternoon to our smart assistants.
Good morrow.
Good morrow.
Android may be just another operating system, but when you check out all about Android, you'll realize that Android's also a ton of fun. Join me, Jason Howell, and my co-hosts Florence Ion and Ron Richards, and a whole slew of guests that we invite on the show every week. Every Tuesday, in fact, we talk about the latest Android news, hardware, apps, and we answer a ton of your Android-related questions as well. Don't miss all about Android at twit.tv.